Welcome to Monster Man.
Grrr.
That's spooky.
Spooky. 3D theater.
A little SCTV.
Yes. Which I didn't think was funny when I was a kid because there was no laugh track.
As a Saturday Night Live guy, I had to check that out, and it never was as funny as Saturday Night Live. But then you get a little older, you're like, all right, I can see. The McKenzie brothers were really funny.
There was so much great. But what a cast that had.
Yeah.
Geniuses. All geniuses.
You had to adjust to it, and then you were like, okay.
By the way, everyone, we're talking about comedians tonight.
Comedians in cars talking about coffins.
Oh, I don't like that, comedians in cars.
It makes me want to do a show like that with us, where we drink coffee and talk about horror movies, but instead we drink alcohol.
I want to put people in my car talking about horror movies and just put them in death-defying situations while I'm behind the wheel. That would be cool.
Or what's that movie, Crash, where they crash the car and then they have sex?
Oh, on purpose.
Yes.
Isn't Patricia Arquette in that movie?
Yeah, James Spader.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Crash, the Sandra Bullock movie that won the Academy Award.
Yeah.
Totally different movie.
Two very, very different.
So, Jack, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we're going to talk about ghosts and the paranormal. Because I had an interesting experience at the barbershop a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. Update, Jack had a ghost encounter.
Yes, the ghost of my hair. My long departed hair.
It's, oh, God.
Now, I didn't actually see a ghost in the barbershop, but I had a great... You find... I don't know about you, but with me, the topic often ends up on ghosts and the paranormal. I guess I just bring it up, and people...
At the barbershop?
Just in general conversation with people. I don't know how it happens, but I always get to, like... I mention something, and it turns into... We talk, and then you learn so much about people when you start to talk about ghosts and the paranormal, and whether they're a believer, or they're a skeptic, or whatever, or it just turns into this thing. So I don't know how the hell it happened, but... I'm getting my hair cut, and this woman cuts my hair. And I don't even know her name. Like, I walked in one day, I needed a new place because we had moved offices, and I stumbled upon this place, and this woman, hey, can you take me? And she did a great job, so I've gone back to her.
A woman at a barbershop? Like the red and white pole barbershop?
So it's the kind of place where it's a barbershop, but I think different people share the space. So on certain days, it's her and this woman there, and on other days, it's these guys in there.
Gotcha. All right. That's rare. That's kind of cool.
So I literally was just like, I'm going to give somebody a shot. This woman did a great job, so I found a new gig, whatever. So I'm in there, and again, I don't know how this came up, but somehow we got on the topic of ghosts. So we're talking about different stuff, and I told her a story about our friend who used to work for the Warrens, and how he was in the same room with the Annabelle doll filming an interview with Ed Warren, and he was, the doll was in one position when he started, and then when he turned around after the interview, the doll had shifted, and we were like, was that weird? He's like, yeah, it was creepy.
That's freaky.
And then we were like, do you think maybe Lorraine was behind it with a stick or something? He goes, that thought also occurred to me. So as I'm saying this, the other woman who I've never said a word to except like, hi, here's what we're talking about. And she's like, oh, my friend went to that place in Connecticut. It's like a museum in somebody's house or something. I'm like, yeah, that's the place I'm talking about. It's the Warrens. They're a cult museum. It's in their basement. She's like, yeah. My friends, they saw that doll. My friend freaked out. She said the hands moved. I'm like, oh my God, that's what my friend said.
Really?
So either something's going on. Either Annabelle's really moving, or they're definitely like moving the doll.
My suspicion is, knowing the Warrens as we do, that doll is on some sort of moving pedestal. Because it's behind glass and you can't touch it.
Yeah, it would not be hard at all to have a little remote control.
Yeah. So
that moves things. Whatever. So anyway,
their veracity is...
The interesting thing here is that a woman who I unsolicited overheard and just throws this out. So now she's in the conversation, and we're tossing around some other stuff. and she proceeds to tell the story, and she is totally not like a paranormal person. She's a very like
uber normal.
Yeah, like a definitely like a New York suburbs like hairdresser, like just like a very matter of fact.
Not impressed.
Not
overly impressed.
Yeah, just like, so she's like, oh yeah, something weird happens at our house, whatever. So the story basically is her friend's fiance died like 8 years ago or something like that. I don't know how he died, but he died on Christmas.
Ooh.
And every so often now, not at her friend's house, but at her house, something weird will happen. And it always happens at 12:25 at night or in the morning. So they're always like, oh, 12:25, that's Christmas. So I can't remember some of the weird things that have happened. But she's like, I don't know why he does it to me. Maybe he's communicating with me for some reason, but it's always at my house. It's always with me. And I don't want this. I don't know why he does it. Whatever. And everything. So I'm like,
why are you talking to me? Leave me alone.
So again, I'm pulling this out of her. It's not like she overheard it and is like, oh, let me volunteer this information for you.
Right.
I'm like asking her questions. Like, oh, well, she said this candle illuminated in my garage.
On its own?
So the girl's got my hair is like, what do you mean illuminated? Like lit? She goes, no, it was light, but it wasn't lit. And she goes, actually, I might have a picture of it. So as she's telling the story, she's going through her phone as she's talking, and she's like, no, it was like lit. It was like there was light, but it wasn't lit, but like it wasn't hot or anything like that. So her friend's like, what did you open it up and see? She goes, what do you mean open it up? It's just like glass and wax. Like you can't open it. It's a citronella candle. It turns out she was talking about like a
right.
So now I'm like, I start like asking the questions. I'm like, so wait a minute. And she's, here's the picture. So she's got a picture of a citronella candle that is glowing. It looks like it looks like there's a light in it.
Right.
Now.
But it doesn't look like the wick is lit. Or does it?
It doesn't really look like it looks more like there's if it's a fake. If it's not a ghostly thing, it looks like an electric. Because it doesn't, there's not, like a flame, there's like a central light. This is more evenly lit than a candle would be, kind of. But I don't know. So she showed me the picture. So then I'm like, well, do you have like a picture of the, she says something about the other candles. I go, oh wait, there was other candles? She was like, yeah, she was 3 of them. Just this one was doing it. She goes, I didn't want to go to bed because I was worried about it or whatever. And I keep going like, oh, that's awesome. She's like, no, it's not. I don't want this. Why? I'm like,
I didn't ask
I get
this,
it.
You jerk.
Yeah, that's it. So she totally like doesn't want this. It's making her uncomfortable like talking about it.
That's awesome.
I go, do you have a picture of like all 3 candles or any other angles? She goes, I might. So she looks and she's like, nah, I guess I was just trying to get close up so you could see it. So I go, listen. I appreciate that I keep saying this is awesome, and I get it, because if it happened to me, I would have like ran through the wall screaming.
Right.
Go, if this ever happens again, you need to, for me, the skeptic, you have to take a picture of like all the candles so I can see one that's glowing and the others that aren't, and 2, I need you to take like an overhead shot so you can see the flames or not, because like clearly she was like, you have to think of it as the skeptic. She's like, I don't care about that. I was just taking a picture of it before I got the hell out of there.
That's an honest reaction.
So, again, just coming off of, I'm in a barbershop. We're talking about all this different stuff. I tell this story. You have the Annabelle thing. And then all of a sudden, this woman, and again, she has no, like, paranormal inkling about her. Like, she's just everyday person. Doesn't know terminology and wants nothing to do with it. She's like, yeah, this other stuff happens and I don't want it, and it happens, and I'm sure it's her husband or whatever. So I actually told them the story about when I was in Easton with the cemetery and the face in the window. So that the next time I go, they want me to bring the picture. to show them. So now I have
Maybe
like
get a discount on your haircut.
my new show is going to be Paranormal Barbershop.
Starring you and Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I will tell you. Now I have, you were talking about this because we were talking about this earlier, and I don't know how it just didn't pop into my mind right away. My podiatrist. The fact that I have a podiatrist.
The fact that you have a podiatrist is scary enough.
I know. He lives in a haunted house in Westchester, New York, and every time I go to see him, I go, "Hey, anything else come up?" Because he does EVPs. He does EVPs in his own house, which I always tell him, I'm like, man. I said, I give you credit. I'm not allowed to. My wife has forbidden me. And when she presents her logic behind it, I go, it's probably right. Because if you hear something you don't want to hear, well, guess what? You still have to live here. But he does it. So he says in his house, I saw him 3 weeks ago. And I said, how's everything going in your house? He goes, well, it's been quiet lately. He says, but he says, on a consistent basis, he hears children laughing in his house in the middle of the night. Which, is there anything creepier than children, right?
Nope, that's it.
So he hears children laughing in his house. Everybody, him, his wife, his children, have all seen things and heard things and had stuff moved around. They've been touched over the years. But he's one of the nicest guys in the world. And his enthusiasm is just, it's awesome to behold. Where he's the guy who's running to the giggling children. He's not running from it. And I think his enthusiasm has spread throughout his family. So I don't think any of them are afraid. And I think maybe also the fact that they're children helps. But he says they do EVP and they'll ask questions and they'll get like a yes. And I see you. So he says, I'm like, you get full sentences? He goes, yes, like 3 or 4 words. He goes, but we'll get full replies. He says that just can't come out of the ether. They're actual replies to the things I'm asking them.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I'm always thinking we should go to his house. I guarantee you he would let us go to his house. Because when I first went to him, I mentioned I was a horror author and that I'd written Forest of Shadows. That's how long I've been seeing him. And I say, yeah, it's a ghost book. He goes, I live in a haunted house. And he watches every paranormal show. Like, you and I have pretty much given up.
Yeah.
I won't watch Ghost Adventures. I won't watch Ghost Buddies and Redneck Ghost Hunter, whatever the hell is on there. I'm done. He is still fully in. And still like looking forward to new episodes of this stuff. So like it's big time for him. So I'm thinking it's weird because he's not the demographic that I would think would be into this. I mean, because he's like our age, but super still into it. And I'm thinking one day I should go to him and say, hey, how would you like just send your wife and kids to go stay in a hotel, and me, you, and my friend Jack, we go and investigate your house for one night.
You got to ask him.
And pray something happens, because the odds of something happening on the night that you all get together is probably slim to none. Because my suspicion is always that when you remove the energy in that house, so if you remove the wife and kids, you've removed that energy, and you've introduced new energy, I think it screws the whole flow up. But whatever, it'll be cool.
Can you imagine, though, like, let's just say we have him, we set up the camera, and we chat with him. Comedians in cars talking about ghosts.
Right.
it would be that's interesting enough if we just could sit down, he could share some stories with us. Whatever. Then we could do some investigating, whatever. But can you imagine if you and I hear children?
Oh my God.
Will we go running to it, or we'll be like, I think we gotta go.
Not me. I'm gonna be like, hey, anybody want some ghost candy?
Yeah. That's the attitude, though. Like, you've seen stuff I haven't.
I live in one. I understand where he's coming from.
It's almost like that's the thing. If you took it from that, like if you were presented with like, there's a figure in my room, if you got up and ran at it rather than being afraid of it, I wonder what
would happen. Now, you know where I live, we've got a boy that appears as a boy who walks through my house. I haven't seen him as a boy in a while, but my wife still does because he seems to be attached to her. And for years, it was you just see him, never spoke, just moved around. Uh, Recently, within the last year, she was touched by him in the kitchen. Turned around, he was standing there. And then she was in the shower one day and she heard behind her ear, she heard mommy. And when she turned around, she saw his hand leaving behind the shower curtain, which that I might add my diarrhea to the tub.
Yeah, it'd be good that there was a drain and water at that point.
Oh, good. I'm naked. I can just let it go. But for years, we didn't know what this was. And I had always, because he always came around when my wife was really ill, and I had suspected it was like a collective stress, unconscious creation between my wife and myself. And I really, because we live in a block with 6 houses. You've seen it's a small block, and we've looked, and nobody has ever died on the street. We've looked into it. About a month or so ago, the woman who owns the house lives downstairs. She's close to 90 now, and my daughters help her out. And she's lonely, so sometimes she likes to talk, and they'll go down to help with the groceries, and they're not coming back for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So she gets my daughter, my oldest daughter, and she starts talking, and apropos of nothing, starts to talk about where we live. There's a school and there's a field, but it used to be a reservoir. So she's been here so long. She's here pre-school. When she remembers it was only this house on the hill, reservoir underneath. And she just started talking to my daughter about her kids when she had 6 kids, and when they were little, how one of their friends died when he was 10 nearby. I think he died in the reservoir. And I was like, oh. I said, was it a boy? And my daughter goes, yeah, it was a boy, a 10-year-old boy. I'm like, that's exactly what we see in this house. So now I'm wondering, because she said he was always here. It was like he was there for lunch and dinner and just playing inside of the house with the boys all the time. And then he passed away. So now we are faced with we were very comfortable with the fact that this is coming from us. And now we're thinking maybe this is coming from somewhere else. And within the last year, he's starting to talk and touch.
Yeah.
Not as comfortable as I used to be here. But still, he's not bothering with me, so I guess whatever. As long as my wife is fine with it, I guess I'm fine.
I'll tell you what. I'll go to McDonald's, have a big meal. I'll go use your bathroom, and I will scare anything out of that place.
Thank God. Please do. I'll drop you off at White Castle, too. I'll tell you, the last time I physically saw him was like maybe a year and a half ago when you were coming over, and I was vacuuming. And as I'm vacuuming, I see someone run behind me in the living room, and I thought it was my kids, one of my kids. And I turn around, and there's nobody there, and I realize they're not home. And I was like, oh, Jack's going to be here in a half an hour. He missed it. But again, it's a vibe thing. I really think that it's like a frequency thing. And if we're on this frequency, and then you introduce other people, deduct other people, it changes the frequency. It's one of my theories that is completely unproved, and we will know when we die, maybe.
Well, I do have a friend a very dear friend who's a very smart, intellectual, like CFO kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to work in a cancer hospital, so she was with a lot of people at the end of their lives. And maybe someday I'll share she's got some paranormal stories herself. But having worked in that environment, I asked her about what's your feelings on death, and outside of any kind of religious thing, she did say that she feels like there's a transfer of energy. It's almost like you leave the body, but there's something that's living on.
Right.
And she was around death a lot more than I am, so
I would like to pose this to anybody who watches our show. If you are a doctor, nurse, or work in hospice, contact us. Reach out to me at huntershay1@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. We'd love to have you on the show if you'd like to be on the show. If not, you don't have to be. Just love to pick your brain, especially someone that works in a hospice who was surrounded by death day and night. I just want to hear what your philosophy is and things that you've possibly seen, because that would be absolutely fascinating. Because to me, there's no greater endeavor that man can undertake than to figure out what goes on after we die.
Yeah.
It's maybe the only really worthwhile thing you can do, but it's been pushed to the fringes and laughed at, which I think is ridiculous.
Well, it's either that or it's just you accept a religion, which is almost equally as hokey if you think about it.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, I believe in this and this. You know, just take Christianity as the one example, but you're believing in a deity, you know, spirits and the devil and all this other stuff. That when you speak of it in that context, it's okay because it's religion. But as soon as you get outside of that and you talk about it, people are like, "Well, you're nuts," and you're like, "Well, wait a minute."
Yeah.
You know, you can't. And I'm talking about every religion right now. None of the religions can prove that they're right.
Correct. And if you want to see like a non-denominational approach to life after death, Dr. Eben Alexander, who was, I think it was a neurologist or a brain surgeon, he died and came back. He's got a couple of books that are very fascinating about his life after death experience. So I highly suggest you guys check that out. But I'm serious. Anybody out there who deals
they
with
don't have to be on the show. If we could just get your 2 cents, and then if it leads to having you on the show, that'd be great. Even somebody who works at like a mortuary.
Oh yeah,
something like that.
I always wonder this. I wonder about haunted cemeteries, because to me, the last place a spirit wants to linger is a cemetery, right, unless there's an attachment to the physical body. But I would hope there isn't. Well, I'd hope there's more.
There's kind of two schools of it. So I had to go to a funeral recently, and we were in a cemetery where I have relatives and friends buried in this cemetery. And I was in a car with some friends, and I said, you know, I've got people buried in the cemetery, but I couldn't find their graves. If you asked me right now, it would take all day. And my friend's mom was like, "Oh, really? Yeah, your friend here, she doesn't like to go to cemeteries either and everything." And I said, "Well, I know my parents are really big on like visiting relatives' graves and stuff like that. For me, it's never been about that. They're in my heart and they're in my memory. So
right,
when I want to think about grandma, I think about grandma, and I look at a picture or something that she owned, or
the tombstone doesn't do it for you."
Yeah, like there's something to visiting a gravesite, I think, but I don't. For me, it's more about as long as you remember that person. Yeah, there's no boundary. There's nothing special in that whole.
Right. Yeah, I think gravesites are for the living. It has nothing to do with the dead. It's just to assist the living. Because dead, who the hell cares? You could put me in Staten Island landfill. What would I care? Which is probably where I'll end up anyway. Goombas.
Staten Island. There is a hell.
Hey, if you've ever wanted to visit Staten Island, watch the new Purge movie set in Staten Island.
Watch the documentary Cropsey. That's where
that movie was cool. My friend Norm is from Staten Island. We should have him on to talk about Staten Island and weirdness.
Yeah.
He was an urban explorer back in his day.
Our psychic friend lives in Staten Island too.
That's right.
We do a whole Staten Island show.
She must know we're talking about her right now. So I like that. Nice episode of Ghost Stories.
Yeah, we'll get more. We'll do this but this is where, if people have good ghost stories or they've got a place in the tri-state area that maybe we can come by for a day or something like that and check it out, let us know.
Yeah, or if you've seen Bigfoot, let me know.
Yeah, Bigfoot, lake monster,
land
shark,
lake shark night. Call back.
Right.
So that's 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
People won't see this for a week or two after the other one, but
that's all right because we're going to get together.
Yes.
After this, the next episode you're going to see is us sitting together side by side, drunk as skunks.
Oh yeah,
having fun.
All right then. With that, everybody try and get a good night's sleep. And like we said, email. I'll put Hunter's email address there and contact us with any cool stories or insight you have for us.
And if you comment on our YouTube channel, I will give random people a free ebook of Forest of Shadows, a ghostly story to help you not go to sleep.
Yes.
So boom, giveaways too.
All right, good job, and guess we'll see everybody next time on
Monster Men.
Monster